Shalom, shalom. I wanted to read something. I know Passover's over. I wanted to read something out of Exodus. I'm leading up to the Israelites leaving Egypt, leaving slavery, more or less. It's chapter 10. It's you got the 10 plagues and everything. So we're at the plagues of locusts. And if anybody has went through something like this, like I've heard a rabbi describe it as the Moshe Pharaoh thing, or Moses and Pharaoh, their story. It's like being stuck between a rock and a hard place, if that makes sense. So it's like whatever he tries to do, you know, let my people go, let my people go, let my people go. Whatever he tries to do, it, you know, the Father hardens Pharaoh's heart to show how miraculous his miracles are, right? That's what it says in the Word. So there's a reason for it, why it's being stopped, why it's being stopped, why it's being stopped. Then he's reluctant. Well, he agrees, yeah, we'll let you go. Then he's reluctant. Then he sees that everything's fine. He's like, no, I'm not going to let you go. So if anybody in spirit has ever dealt with something like this, it can be very frustrating, in regards to, you know, injunctions or anything in regards to the law, lawsuits or anything. Somebody's harassing you, or somebody's stalking you, or you get an ex parte on them or a restraining order, and they keep coming around, and it's just like the court's not doing nothing for you. It's like So what ends up happening is you get in your spirit that way, and you try very hard to fight in spirit against whatever you're fighting. You understand what I'm saying? So if it's an individual, if it's an entity, so those entities, those people can put you between rocks and hard places. Not necessarily you're leading 600,000 Israelites, a million Israelites out of slavery, right? And not just slavery, like getting whipped and everything, oppression, mental slavery, like being oppressed by the rulers that be. You're not necessarily getting mistreated or beat up or what have you. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm going to go ahead and read this. I hope somebody took something from that. If not, it's a great story, right? It's the deliverance from Egypt, from slavery, oppression, mistreatment, getting looked at like less than. You understand what I'm saying? So the Hebrews got out and wanted to go do their own thing. You understand what I'm saying? So, okay. And of course, later on, you read that it's, people start getting irritated, gluttonous, take us back to Egypt, this sucks, stuff like that. So, chapter 10. Then Yahuwah, I am, I was, I will be, said to Moshe, return to Pharaoh and make your demands again. I have made him and his officials stubborn, so I can display my miraculous signs among them. I've also done it so you can tell your children and grandchildren about how I made a mockery of the Egyptians and about the signs I displayed among them. And, the Hebrew will say Mizraim for Egypt. And so you will know that I am, I was, I will be. So Moshe and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, this is what Yahuwah, the Elohim of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to submit to me? Let my people go so they can worship me. If you refuse, watch out, for tomorrow I will bring a swarm of locusts on your country. Now back to what I said earlier in the video. They want to be free spiritually, emotionally, physically, from whatever problem, whatever rock and hard place somebody's put you in. Those people just want to be free and worship, bro. They want to worship and praise, but they cannot because they're in so much oppression. Whether that be the restraining orders, whether that be the lawsuits, whether that be the government oppressing you. You understand what I'm saying? People stealing money from you and you can't really do nothing but go civilly and try to sue them and pay money in courts that you don't have. Understand what I'm saying? This is what the story's for. So Moshe and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, this is what Yahuwah, the Elohim of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to submit to me? Let my people go so they can worship me. If you refuse, watch out, for tomorrow I will bring a swarm of locusts on your country. They will cover the land so that you won't be able to see the ground. They will devour what little is left of your crops in the hailstorm, including all the trees growing in the fields. They will overrun your palaces and homes of your of your officials and the houses in Egypt. Never in the history of Egypt have your ancestors seen a plague like this one. And with that, Moshe turned and left Pharaoh. Pharaoh's officials now came to Pharaoh and appealed to him. How long will you let this man hold us hostage? Let the man go to worship Yahuwah, their Elohim. Don't you realize that Egypt lies in ruins? So Moshe, I've heard that the Hebrew, Moses is Moshe. That's how you pronounce it. But I've heard it pronounced Moshe, so I go back and forth. So Moshe and Aaron went, brought back to Pharaoh. Excuse me, having a tough time reading. It's a little dark in here. So Moshe and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh. All right, he told them, go and worship Yahuwah your Elohim, but who exactly will be going with you? See, now it's a stipulation. So now you can leave, but now who's going exactly? Understand what I'm saying? Yeah, we'll leave you alone, but you know, the ABC. What about the restraining order? Well, what about her and you know him with the kid? No, you understand what I'm saying? This you have to correlate this scripture with personal dealings, because if you don't necessarily go through something like this, people do, and you can't look at people like this like they're crazy. This is what they go through spiritually, bro. Moshe replied, we will all go, young and old, our sons and daughters, and our flocks and herds. We must all join together in celebrating a festival to Yahuwah. Pharaoh retorted, Yahuwah will certainly need to be with you if I let you take your little ones. I can see through your evil plan. Never. Only the men may go and worship Yahuwah, since that is what you requested. I'm going to turn the light on real quick. I can't really see. I keep stumbling over my words. Forgive me. Moshe replied, we will all go, young and old, our sons and daughters, and our flocks and herds. We must all join together in celebrating a festival to Yahuwah. Pharaoh retorted, Yahuwah will certainly need to be with you if I let you take your little ones. I can see through your evil plan. Never. Only the men may go and worship Yahuwah, since that is what you were requested. And Pharaoh threw them out of the palace. So what Pharaoh more or less is doing here is giving a stipulation, because he still wants power and control over the situation. Understand what I'm saying? So he's going to, y'all go, but I'm going to still rule over these people, right? He doesn't want to entirely let go. Then Yahuwah said to Moshe, raise your hand over the land of Egypt to bring on the locusts. Let them cover the land and devour every plant that survived the hailstorm. So Moshe raised the staff over Egypt, and Yahuwah caused an east wind to blow over the land all that day and through the night. When morning arrived, the east wind had brought the locusts, and the locusts swarmed over the whole land of Egypt, settling in dense swarms from one end of the country to the other. It was the worst locust plague in Egyptian history, and there has never been another one like it. For the locusts covered the whole country in darkness and darkened the land. They devoured every plant in the fields and all the fruit of the trees that had survived the hailstorm. Not a single leaf was left on the trees and plants throughout the land of Egypt. Pharaoh quickly summoned Moshe and Aaron. I have sinned against Yahuwah your Elohim and against you, he confessed. Forgive my sin just this once and plead with Yahuwah your Elohim to take away his death from me. So the people that are quote unquote victims in a scenario, whatever scenario you want to use, whatever scenario put you or that person in between a rock and a hard place, like you feel like you can't do nothing. There are times, and I'm dealing with them personally, that things happen, and it starts convincing the people, back away from me, back away from me, back away from me. I'm sorry. And then they're like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean nothing like that. And then it just goes back to normal. You understand? So this is how it goes when you're dealing with a person or an entity that's putting you in a rock or a hard place. You feel like you can't do nothing. No one's helping you. You understand what I'm saying? But keep your faith. So Moshe left Pharaoh's court and pleaded with Yahuwah. Yahuwah responded by shifting the wind, and the strong west wind blew the locusts into the Red Sea. Not a single locust remained in all the land of Egypt, but Yahuwah hardened Pharaoh's heart again, so he refused to let the people go. Then Yahuwah said to Moshe, lift your hand toward the Shamayim, and the land of Egypt will be covered, which is heaven. And the land of Egypt will be covered with a darkness so thick you can feel it. So Moshe lifted his hand to the sky, and a deep darkness covered the entire land of Egypt for 3 days. During all that time, the people could not see each other, and no one moved. But there was a light as usual where the people of Israel lived. Finally, Pharaoh called for Moshe. Go and worship Yahuwah, he said, but leave your flocks and herds here. You may even take your little ones with you. No, Moshe said, you must provide us with animals for sacrifices and burnt offerings to Yahuwah our Elohim. All our livestock must go with us, too. Not a hoof can be left behind. We must choose our sacrifices for Yahuwah our Elohim from among these animals, and we won't know how we are to worship Yahuwah until we get there. But Yahuwah hardened Pharaoh's heart once more, and he would not let them go. Get out of here, Pharaoh shouted at Moshe. I'm warning you, never come back to see me again. The day you see my face, you will die. Very well, Moshe replied, I will never see your face again. All right, end of chapter 10. So this is about the end of I know it's a long video. It's about the end of the 10 plagues. But seriously, when you read this story, and what Passover is really about is the freedom from the oppression, the slavery, the mental slavery, the emotional slavery, the physical slavery, all that stuff. It's like the African Americans and the civil rights movement in the 1980s. It's not so much slavery, but it's oppression from how others perceive that group of people. You understand what I'm saying? So people, the Hebrews, all the Hebrews, they weren't necessarily getting whipped and whipped and whipped and whipped all the time. Build. No, they weren't doing that. It's the oppression they were feeling because they couldn't really go and live a fulfilled life. You understand what I'm saying? Then you go to the historically black colleges. Some reason the civil rights movement recently is the African American movement. That's what the Hebrews is, and this is how they felt because they were going against a conglomerate. The father chose Moses to go and speak for his people, or Aaron, his brother, because sometimes he couldn't speak, and deliver his people. That's why in the New Testament you hear Yahusha, or the Messiah, saying, "I am." The law of Moses is him. I heard it in a rendition of on the Chosen. I don't know what's actually said in the Word, but that's who the Messiah is, right? So to correlate it with Rome, understand what I'm saying? So it's a beautiful thing to see and put all the parts together and everything. But when you read this, if you haven't necessarily went through it, don't write people off that really relate to this story, right? Because people say it doesn't happen no more like that. Doesn't happen no more like that. Not one particular person can live something that's written or something that's happened before exactly 100% to its entirety. People just write it off as, "Oh, you're crazy," or "That didn't happen no more." You just understand what I'm saying? So that in of itself is oppression and slavery. So I hope you guys got something out of this word. I'm sorry for stumbling on my words. I should turn the light on earlier, but y'all have a blessed night. In the Messiah's name, I say these things, amen.